Counter-Strike 2 is on its way, of course. We got the massive news recently that it is obviously confirmed and it is in development and it will be releasing in the summer of 2023. And obviously, we haven't really had much information since then. We got the information about the changes, which I'll go through in this video, and we obviously got the information about the beta. But since all of that, things have sort of died down and we haven't really seen much about what's next. In this video, we're going to be going over what's next for Counter-Strike 2, what we can expect on release and what we can expect before the release in the upcoming months before it does release within the summer. So we'll go through all the confirmed info that we have so far and what we can expect to arrive next with the latest Counter-Strike 2 news before its release. So let's get into the video. So first of all, let's go over absolutely everything we know so far about Counter-Strike 2. So we'll start off by looking at the general Counter-Strike 2 gameplay changes from Global Offensive. So Valve is expected to reveal more details about the full Counter-Strike 2 gameplay experience on the road towards this summer release, but we do have some idea of what we can expect. For starters, Counter-Strike 2 won't be a fundamental change from what we all know and love from Global Offensive. Fast-paced first-person shooter where teams work to defeat the opposing team, disarm explosives, and trade earned money for better weaponry. While the fundamentals may not be changing, the way Counter-Strike 2 feels will be. In that, Valve believes it'll be faster and more responsive to your actions. For a game which is often won or lost in the milliseconds between inputs, that's massive news. Valve is accomplishing this by overhauling how it tracks player movements, shooting and throwing, effectively making it so that the tick rate will no longer get in your way. In the past, CSGO would communicate your actions to the server in discrete time intervals known as ticks, but new architecture created for Counter-Strike 2 will ensure that the servers know the exact instant that motion starts, a shot is fired, or a nade is thrown, which Valve promises will ensure, regardless of tick rate, your moving and shooting will be equally responsive and your grenades will always land the same way. That's generally the improvements with gameplay, but now let's focus in on one of the gameplay changes with the smoke grenades. So one of the more impactful changes being introduced in Counter-Strike 2 is that smoke grenades are now volumetric objects, which will react to lighting, gunfire and explosions. This means that smoke will naturally move around the environment and interact with certain objects, while bullets and HE grenades will actually push smokes to clear sightlines or expand occlusion for a limited amount of time. You can also expect to see smoke deploy and spread more naturally, adding more variables to maps for a more tactical and evolving experience. Obviously, with the current smoke grenades within Counter-Strike Global Offensive, it's just a ball of smoke pretty much. It's just an area of smoke that you can't really change. It doesn't interact with the environment in any way, it just covers any objects around it, and it's literally just a ball of smoke that when you walk into it, you can't see, but you can actually just walk around this entire ball of smoke, and obviously that's not very realistic and doesn't feel very natural, and it's going to feel very natural with the smoke grenade upgrades, and I'm going to call them upgrades since I believe they are upgrades, not just changes. And yeah, they'll be interacting with the environment in better ways, they'll be seeping through cracks in windows and everything like that into certain areas, just a much more realistic experience, which obviously I think is a good change and, you know, keeps Counter-Strike modern and keeps it up to date and competing with the other esports games in the industry. So yeah, really positive things in my opinion with the changes to smoke grenades. So now let's talk about the graphics and VFX. Now Counter-Strike is taking advantage of the new Source 2 engine, of course, which means that you can expect to see Counter-Strike like you've never seen it before. Valve has completely overhauled the visual effects with Source 2 lighting and particle systems, and a particular focus has been placed on making bullet impacts more readable at a distance. Environmental effects have been improved too, as Valve attempts to create greater visual fidelity and consistency with elements like explosions and fire. In addition, the Counter-Strike 2 UI has been completely redesigned to better communicate information while you're desperately attempting to avoid getting shot in the face. And speaking of getting shot, Counter-Strike 2 will see all stock weapons be given a new high-resolution models, something which some legacy weapon finishers will take advantage of too. Pretty cool stuff there, and basically everything is going to get improved in some way with new graphics. The lighting is going to be improved, the overall objects are going to be improved, and overall the maps are going to be improved with this new Source 2 engine. But some maps are going to take better advantage of this Source 2 engine than others. Of course, the Source 2 engine has been used with other games by Valve. We see this with Dota 2, and we're going to be finally seeing it with the Counter-Strike series. Global Offensive was not on the Source 2 engine, and it's starting to show that in recent years. You're starting to see some outdated areas phase of the game, and yeah, we'll be getting some improvements with mainly the graphics when it comes to the Source 2 engine, but the Source 2 engine will also be the cause for improvements when it comes to, you know, the overall mechanics and general gameplay of the game as well. So like we briefly touched on, let's actually fully touch on that now, and let's look at the Counter-Strike 2 maps. So as part of the upgraded package, the initial set of Counter-Strike 2 maps have been built to take advantage of the new Source 2 tools and rendering features. That means you should expect to see a rebuild of some CSGO favourites and careful updates to others. For example, overpasses being fully overhauled to leverage new engine tools. Nuke will take advantage of new Source 2 lighting to produce realistic materials, lighting and reflections. A key touchstone map like Dust 2 will receive improvements to lighting and character read, but its foundations will remain otherwise untouched since it really is a fan favourite. So the current list of Counter-Strike 2 maps that have been picked out from the trailers are these: Dust 2, Italy, Mirage, Nuke, Overpass and Train. So most of the popular maps will see changes with the Source 2 engine, but you know, the really popular ones and the ones that work really well might not see as many changes as others that aren't quite as popular, because obviously they work really well, the players are happy with them, so really what's the need to change them? And it is also worth noting that CSGO skins will carry over to Counter-Strike 2. Regardless of whether you've been playing for a decade or 10 minutes, you've likely got a loadout of items that you'd like to keep hold of for Counter-Strike 2, and thankfully Valve has confirmed that it will be able to bring your entire CSGO inventory with you to Counter-Strike 2. That means you'll not only be able to keep every item that you have collected, but they will all benefit from Source 2 lighting and materials to ensure that they look even better than ever, so no negatives there at all. And of course, Counter-Strike 2 is going to be free. This is going to be a free-to-play game, just like CSGO had when it became free-to-play within 2018, and that will be continuing with Counter-Strike 2. Of course, we might still see the, you know, the implementation of Prime like we do with Counter-Strike Global Offensive, where you can't really play ranked unless you do own the Prime, which is basically a one-time purchase for about £10, I believe, and then you have Prime for however long that you want to have it. You'll be able to play competitively as long as you do have that, and I think that'll probably be the same with Counter-Strike 2, since they need to make sure they're getting somewhat of a steady income with it even being a free-to-play game. So yeah, I'm sure that will continue, but most players don't really seem to have much of an issue with that. It's not that high of a price to be able to play competitively. And then of course we have the release date of just the summer of 2023, but the beta has already started, and the beta is something that's not very easy to get access to. Basically, players are selected based on a number of factors deemed important by the Counter-Strike 2 development team, and this is included but not limited to recent playtime on Valve official servers, your Steam trust factor, and your Steam account standing. And that is basically everything that is taken into account, or well, some of the things that are taken into account. We don't necessarily know all of them when it comes to being selected for the Counter-Strike 2 limited test, but it is very, very tough to get access to this. But it is worth noting that they will continue to actually be adding people to this beta, since they want to stress test the servers before its release in the summer, since of course when it releases in the summer there's going to be a massive influx of players, particularly since it's a free-to-play game. But now let's actually look into the future. What's going to happen between now and its release in the summer of 2023? So we're going to assume that it will release in the summer of 2023 and there won't be any sort of delay. I believe there won't be any delays. From the gameplay I've seen so far, things look great, and at the moment there are people that have access to the game, and those people, a lot of them are streaming the game over on Twitch, and you can watch those streams on Twitch. And at the moment we are just entering our final CSGO Esports tournament before we then transition into Counter-Strike 2 with esports. Of course, it's going to take a bit of time for esports players to adapt to the new Counter-Strike 2 mechanics, the new gameplay, the new lighting and the maps and everything like that. It's going to have a big impact actually on how it works within esports, but I have no doubt Counter-Strike 2 will have a positive effect on the esports industry, just improving the popularity of the game within esports and the overall esports popularity. I have no doubt that it will do that, and it's certainly not going to have a negative effect, providing that the game works well at launch. But at the moment it looks like the bugs aren't too bad. There are definitely some, but hopefully by the time the game launches in the summer of 2023 there'll only be a couple bugs left and it'll be a very smooth experience when it does release on PC. But to be honest, in terms of what's next between now and its release, probably isn't that much. Of course we'll get some new information, we'll maybe get a couple trailers or two, and we'll definitely get a launch trailer and stuff like that, and maybe we'll get some teasers about some of the other features that will be arriving with Counter-Strike 2. Maybe we'll get a tour of Counter-Strike 2 and stuff like that, where they show us all of the menus and all of the features that have been added in a video or something like that. That's always a possibility, but generally speaking, we'll probably just get a bit of more information and frequent updates from Valve between now and its release in the summer, or at least hopefully the summer, unless there are any delays, but like I mentioned, I'm not really expecting that. So that does just about wrap up things here. That's what you can expect from Counter-Strike 2 between now and its release in the summer, and everything we know about Counter-Strike 2 so far. Now, I have actually done a video going over how Counter-Strike 2 will impact the esports industry. A link to that video is on the screen now if you are interested in watching that.